Hello everybody! In today's video, we're going to be taking a detailed look at the USA Train's Hew Haven 44-ton switcher. The 44-tonner was, as you might guess, 44 tons, and was a light-duty switcher manufactured by General Electric from 1940 to 1956, and some say into 1957. And we'll start off with a little bit of history here. The 44-tonner is a diesel-electric locomotive switcher that was manufactured to replace the steam locomotive switchers currently doing the various switching and shunting jobs. By the mid-20th century, replacing steam with diesel-electric was well underway, but it was not a very fast process. It actually took decades, from the 1930s through the late 1960s, to transition from steam to diesel, and the GE 44-tonner was just one example of diesel replacing steam. There were 386 44-tonners produced, and most of those were for operators in the US. But some were sent to places like Australia, Canada, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, and Cuba, to name a few, and 56 were made for the US military. As far as survivors go, there are a lot of 44-tonners still out there operational on various railroads. There are also several simply on display or in the process of being restored. Those numbers can vary slightly though, based on the source of the information. The story behind the name 44-tonner is pretty interesting, and it has to do with the railroad labor unions. During the transition from diesel to steam, the railroad unions were attempting to protect the locomotive fireman's job that was in danger due to the transition away from steam. The fireman's job was to manage the fire that heats the boiler and creates the steam on the steam locomotives. Of course, diesels don't have a boiler, so the fireman's job is essentially unnecessary on a diesel locomotive. So one compromise in the labor negotiations was the 90,000-pound rule. That rule stated that any diesel-electric locomotive 45 short tons and over would require a fireman. And what did the fireman do on a diesel locomotive? I'm not sure. So what did the manufacturers do? They designed a switcher 1 short ton lighter than the 45-ton and over fireman requirement. Other manufacturers followed suit by producing versions of the 44-ton switchers as well. Now earlier I mentioned the locomotive weight in short tons. Measuring in tons can be messy business because there are 3 basic standards, if you will, for the measurement of a ton: the metric ton, the long ton, and the aforementioned short ton. The metric ton is 2,204.6 pounds. The long ton is 2,240 pounds, and the short ton is a nice round 2,000 pounds. Which ton measurement you use can depend on a combination of things: what you're weighing and what country you're weighing it in. In the US, we tend to use the nice round 2,000-pound short ton, which makes calculations a bit easier. Similar to how the metric system uses nice round numbers based on the powers of 10 for ease of calculations. So why did we buy our USA Train's 44-tonner? Well, I was browsing around the Train's website on the Massachusetts tax-free weekend we get every year to see if I could find any deals. I did have my eye on the Toronto version of the Bachmann's Peter Witt streetcar in G-scale. While I was browsing, I saw the 44-tonner. The shape and size caught my eye, and we really like the switcher-sized locomotives on our Garden Railroad, and us being in the Northeast, the Hew Haven livery was a big draw too. Now I don't know if you know anything about the Train's online store, but they have a membership service called the Private Car Premium Membership. It's $10.95 per month and $109.50 per year. Train's displays new products in a preview state for I think a 7-day period. Only private car members can purchase items while they're in preview. So the rest of us non-private car membership riffraff have to wait the 7-day preview period until the item becomes available to the general public. Anyway, the Peter Witt streetcar was snatched up right away after that 7-day preview. And since we weren't going to buy both the streetcar and the switcher, that left the door open to purchase the 44-tonner, which we did. USA Trains doesn't make the 44-tonner anymore, and I'm not sure when they actually did make it or when they stopped, because as far as I can remember, the USA Trains 44-tonner production came and went by the time we started G-scaling. Okay, let's take a look at our USA Trains Hew Haven 44-tonner. So the 44-tonner is a pretty nice looking switcher, and as you can see here we have it in the Hew Haven livery here. So we've got the kind of the black on the hoods and the deck here, and then we've got the red trim through the cab and then along the side of the deck here. It's got some nice detailing on the side, including these little signs for high voltage here. It's got the GE indicator right there. Remember, GE was the one that manufactured these. And then a little fire extinguisher placard there. And you can see it's got some nice window detailing here. And those windows will slide open, as you can just see there. So yeah, these USA trains have pretty good detail for the price point. I'm not sure what this cost new. I imagine it was probably in the high 200s, maybe to mid 300s is what I'm guessing, based on the price that we paid for, say, something comparable like our S4 switcher. And then we've got the stamped in detailing here of the access panels here for under the hood. And we've got the engine number up here in the corners. And we've got lots of different railings and things like that that we'll see as we spin it around. It's got some nice ladder features down here at the bottom. Oh, it actually says Hew Haven, 350 horsepower right on the side there. Had to get a little close to read that. And then as you can see down here, the trucks, there's a little bit of detailing down here, and then you can see the metal springs for the suspension. But yeah, it's a nice looking locomotive. So why don't we give it a little turn here. And we'll stop at the 3/4 here. And you can see again, some nice work here with the front of the cab with the windows, and then a little windshield wiper feature here, some vent work down here. These, you'll see it more from the top, but we've got some smokestacks here, or exhaust. Smokestacks, exhaust. And you can put smoke in here, or smoke fluid in here, which is kind of nice. You can do that really on just about any locomotive in G scale. And then for the front, we'll stop at the front here, but you can see some vent work here, some red railings, and then again, Hew Haven, and then the locomotive number. But that's a nice little 3/4 view there. This locomotive, like all USA trains, except for the dockside steam locomotives, have the latch coupler or hook and loop coupler, depending on what you call it. And we'll just continue around to the front here. This is a nice view here. You can see it's got a working headlight. It's got some step-ups down here. And again, those red railings, nice little detail. But there's a nice front shot of the locomotive. And we'll just continue around. And there's another little bit of a 3/4 view there. Now, the one thing you're going to notice here, I'm just going to go ahead and bring it around, but you'll notice that it's actually the exact same. It's perfectly symmetrical on both sides. So you've got this center cab here, and to each side, it looks exactly the same from side to, from one side to the other. So yeah, it's kind of cool. It was probably necessary for those switches, since they go back and forth all day long, to just be able to drive them just equally no matter what direction you're facing in. And you might be able to see here, but there's a driver in the cab. Let's see if I can turn it so that you might be able to see him. Right there. Another nice little detail from USA trains. But we'll give that a spin. So you can check it out, and then we'll check out the top and the bottom. All right, so looking at the locomotive from above, we've just got it in our foam cradle here to keep it protected while we have it at an angle here. But you can see here, obviously, the center cab from the top. And then you can see the hoods on either side, almost perfectly symmetrical. Nice vent work up here, worked into the hood, stamped into the hood. You've got your exhaust here on either side, and you've got horns on the top there on either side. And then you might be able to see it down here, but there's some little step-ups down here. Let's see if we can zoom in and see that. I don't know how good our lighting is going to be here, but you can see it maybe right down here. But that's a nice little detail there. We've got the hook and loop or latch couplers at either end. And then you can see the black decking down here. But yeah, just a view from the top just to get a sense of what that looks like. All right, looking at things from below, we'll start with the trucks here. Metal wheels on these trucks. You can see a little, this is used, so you can see a little scuff marking here. And then you can see the contacts that touch the rails. And that's the same on both trucks here. You've got your speaker space here. Now this one doesn't have sound, but you can attach sound to these pretty easily. We haven't done it, but you can do it. It's a few $100s, I think. USA Trains will actually do it for you. I mean, you'll have to pay for it. And then there's a little bit of modeling detail under here. So you've got these air tanks here underneath, and I'm not quite sure what that little bell-shaped thing is, but you got that as well. And then one other thing that we want to note down here is that there's a series of switches that you can turn on and off. And those switches are for the motor, for the sound, for the smoke, and for the lights. So we'll get a close-up view of that. Yep, so looking at these switches from top to bottom, it's motor, lights, smoke, and sound. Now we keep the smoke and the sound off. Obviously the sound because we don't use it, and then the smoke because we don't really run the smoke that often, and so we just want to make sure that the unit isn't fired up when it's not being used. So, and these are just simple on-off switches. The on position is the outside here, and then the off position is to the inside, or on to the left, off to the right. Okay, and when we order this from Trains, it actually came in its original box. So this is a typical USA Trains box. You know, it's labeled USA Trains, and it's got this blue framing with kind of a blueprint picture of the locomotive that's inside. And the funny thing about this box here is that it's got this flap on it that, you know, opens up a window here, or reveals a window where you can see the locomotive. And then it's got some of the other products that USA Trains sells. And the funny thing is, they don't sell a lot of these things anymore. So this GP9, if you look on their website, you can't find that anymore. They don't make that anymore. And then this switcher with the, I think that's called the cow attachment. I've seen those used, and I've seen them in hobby shops around here, but you can't get that on their website anymore. And also this 25-ton crane. Trust me, I've tried to find that. That's something that I really wanted to get, and they don't make that anymore, and it's really hard to find, even used. But yeah, this little flap, they don't put those on the boxes anymore, at least any of the boxes that we have purchased. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. All right, guys, so that is going to do it for our detailed look at the USA Trains 44-ton switcher, or 44-tonner as it's referred to. Yeah, it's a really nice looking locomotive. Like I said, we really like the switcher size locomotives for our garden railroad. We kind of prefer those. We've got some bigger locomotives, but these are the funnest ones to run, I think. But yeah, we're pretty happy with this purchase. But let's get it out on the garden railroad and take it for a run.